Hello, everyone. Everyone is joining right now. Thank you so much for joining this month's Dr. Jaspersoft session. Welcome again. We're just gonna give it a couple minutes so we give a chance for the other folks to join. Just gonna give it a minute and then we're gonna jump in. Thank you so much. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you again. Thank you so much for joining this today's Dr. Jaspersoft session. So we're going to talk about Docker and Kubernetes deployment. I'm Badr Draifi. I'm a customer success architect here at TIBCO, and I have with me today Himanshu Parmar from Houston, Texas. Thank you very much, Himanshu, for joining. Our senior manager infrastructure, and also Ranga Reddy from Hyderabad, India, is our senior DevOps engineer. So they will be presenting you our new and simple approach of using Docker and Kubernetes with the Jasper Reports Server. So please, guys, put your questions on the comments. I'm going to comment. I'm going to monitor that, and we'll try to answer all of your questions at the end of the session. Thank you. Himanshu, if you can go to the next slide, please. Great. So this is for our next Dr. Jaspersoft session. It's going to be live on streaming as well in our our Jaspersoft embedded BI channel in YouTube and also in our LinkedIn group. It's going to be about Jasper server rate limiting. This is a pre-release feature for our Upshift client. It's we're going to talk more about how we can schedule or prioritize the order of scheduling reports and running reports. So this will give the users better flexibility to make prioritization on which reports should be scheduled. They should give more give it more priority on the execution queue or in the schedule queue. So this, stay tuned, is going to be on November 18th. It's not the second Thursday of November. This is a special chime-in for next month. It's going to be third Tuesday, but our plan is usually to have on every second Tuesday, but this is exceptional. Without further ado, Himanshu, I give you the floor. You can go and present the Docker and Kubernetes. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Badr, and thank you everyone for joining. I am Himanshu Parmar. I'm a senior manager infrastructure at Jaspersoft TIBCO, and I will be your co-host today along with my colleague Ranga Reddy. So let's jump into the agenda. So we are going to cover today all the challenges that we had with our existing Docker and Kubernetes implementation. We will look into the overview of the new implementation. Then we will see how to build Docker images. Then we will jump into the deployment of Jasper Reports Server using Docker and then Kubernetes. After that, we will give you the demo as well. So let's start with the first slide here. So what are the challenges that we have as of today with our existing implementation? As you might already know, we have the public GitHub repository where we have the project called JS Docker. And that project has multiple challenges. I will go through a few of the challenges here. So one of the challenges that we have is the size of the Docker image itself. We have a couple of Docker images and the size of them are more than 2 gigabytes. And one of the reasons that we have a bigger Docker image is because we are not using multi-stage builds. The downside of this would be would be that the scaling up or down of the pods or containers will take a lot of time. The commands that are executed as a part of the Docker file, they are executed as root user, and that is not the best practice. It is a security problem, and we have removed that in the new implementation. We have been using a lot of scripting and configuration files. It's very difficult to use, manage, and maintain. We are using volumes for Tomcat or Jaspersoft and the Buildomatic customizations. It's very, very difficult for maintainability. We are installing Chromium as a part of container startup. So user won't have any control over the Chromium installation at all. And the help charts are just provided as samples right now, and they are outdated. It does not work out of the box. So let's look into how we have overcome all these challenges that we had. We'll look into the repository structure first of all with the new implementation. So let me go and share this URL with you here. As you can see, on the public GitHub repository, we have the TIBCO software org, and under that we have the JS Docker as of today. Under the master branch, we have the old one, old code, and if you switch to the develop branch, that's where we will have all the new code available. It's publicly available as of today also if you want to give it a try. So on the very top level, as you can see, we have two folders, Docker and Kubernetes. Let me go into the Docker folder. As you can see, we have a bunch of subfolders here along with all the required configuration and Docker files. I will just walk you through all the important files here. So as you can see, we have the .environment file, and here we can provide all the environmental variables. For example, if you want to use Chromium, and if you want to install Chromium, you can just turn this as true. At the same time, we can provide all the Tomcat or JDK base image. We can provide all the information here, and the Docker file will read it from here. Now let's look into the other files. As you can see, we have two Docker files available. One with the name Docker file itself. Second is dockerfile.buildomatic. Docker file will be used to deploy the Jasper Reports Server web application. Dockerfile.buildomatic will be used to create the repository database. We have provided the Docker Compose files as well as samples. We have two Compose files. One is Docker Compose.yaml. Second is the cluster Docker Compose.yaml. As the name says, the Docker Compose will create only single instance of the JRS, and the cluster will create the cluster of JRS. Let's look into a few of the folders here. The resources folder, if you go inside the resources folder, you can see we have multiple folders here as well. Let's say if you want to do the customization on the Buildomatic side or on the Jasper server and Tomcat side, we have this folder. You can apply all the customization within these folders. We have the key store and license folders also. So all your key stores and license will reside under this. And once you have all these customizations and key store and license, you can go and build your images. All the scripts resides under the scripts folder. And let me go back to the presentation mode now. So we have discussed about the Docker files, environment, and DB configuration. Okay, so DB configuration, out of the box, we support PostgreSQL as the database. So if you want to start Postgres as a container or a pod, you could do that. You can use the solution out of the box. If you wish to use any external database which are supported by Jaspersoft, you could use any external database as well. The Chromium, as I said, you can so Chromium you can install it, or you choose not to install as well. These are all for the Docker part. For the Kubernetes, we are using helm charts. So helm charts are helm chart is a package manager which is used for Kubernetes deployment. Then one thing to note here is that the new implementation will be supported on Jasper Reports Server 7.8 and above. Now let's look into how to build the Docker images. So we have a couple of ways to build the images here. One is using Docker Compose. So you just need to navigate to the Docker JRS folder and then run the simple command Docker Compose and build. What it will do, it will create two images. One is for the web app, second is for the Buildomatic. The same way, if you wish to use Docker build command, you could use the Docker build command as well. We recommend using Docker Compose. It's simple, it's less error prone, so please feel free to use Docker Compose. Once you have the images ready, then you can move forward to install the database or the Jasper Reports web application. So if you want to set up the repository database, you can use the simple Docker Compose command, and then it will set up the database repository for you. Once the database repository is ready, you can run the actual web application. You can start or deploy the actual web application using Docker Compose up command. And so once you do this, it will start single instance of the JRS application. Let's say if you want to deploy Jasper Reports Server in the cluster mode, we have, as I showed here, we have the cluster Docker Compose file. And this is the sample for you to deploy the Jasper Reports Server in the cluster environment. What it will do, it will start a couple of Jasper Reports Server containers along with ActiveMQ for JMS caching and HA proxy for load balancing and sticky sessions. So you use the similar command and provide the file as cluster Docker Compose file. It will have your environment up and ready in the cluster mode. Now let's talk about how to deploy Jasper Reports Server in Kubernetes. As I said, we are using Helm chart to define, install, and upgrade the applications within Kubernetes environment. We are using two types of Helm charts here. One that we have created for deploying and configuring the Jasper Reports Server itself. We are also using the third-party Helm charts for monitoring, logging, and database configuration. So if you wish to use PostgreSQL as a database, then Bitnami has provided those Helm charts already. You can update default master properties file and with the database configuration details. Let me show you here where you could do that. So if you see, I navigated to the Docker folder. Under resources, we have default properties, and this is the default _ master properties file. So you could provide all the database properties here, like the host and the credentials, and then you rebuild the image, and then you can deploy. So once your database is ready, now you can deploy your application. So there are a couple of ways to deploy application as well. Let's say you don't have any repository database available, and you wish to install it from scratch. So what you could do, you could use the Helm charts that are available under our folders. You could use Helm install JRS command and provide the wait and timeout as an arguments. And why we need it, because the database configuration may take up to 15 to 18 minutes, and that's why we are providing the timeout as 20 minutes here. So what it will do, it will configure your database, and then it will start your JRS application. Let's say you already have the repository database available out there. And in that case, you just need to disable the Buildomatic parameter in your values.yaml file, and I can quickly show it to you. Let me go back to our JS Docker and Kubernetes folder. Under Helm, we have this values.yaml file. And you could see that we have this Buildomatic parameter here. Enable is equal to true by default. You can make it false, and it will use your existing repository database. So once you have done this, then you can run Helm install command again, and it will install the JRS application. As I said, we support, out of the box, we support some third-party tools for monitoring and logging as well. So we are using Prometheus stack, which will install Prometheus and Grafana for monitoring. And for logging, we are using EFK stack. So if you wish to enable both of these, you again go back to your values.yaml file. And if I can quickly search for it, you can see here, we have metrics is by default false, as well as logging is by default false. So you just need to make them true, and it will install both of these on your cluster. So once you have made modifications to your values.yaml file, we need to make sure that we update the Helm dependencies. To do that, just simply run helm dep update command. It will update the dependencies, and then you're good to go with the installation of Jasper Reports Server. So simply run helm install grs slash helm command, and it will install your grs on the cluster. So that concludes all the slides that I had. Now we will move ahead and look into the demo part. Ranga, over to you.
Thank you, thank you, Himanshu. Hello, everyone, and let's start for the demo. As Himanshu told, and we have two types of deployment types in the Docker. There is a single instance Jasper server application, and there is a clustered-based Docker installation. In the single instance, we have one Jasper server application along with the ActiveMQ caching and database setup. Uh, let Because this complete process will take a lot of time, so we pre-configure all the environment and we can show what are all doing here. Let me show the Docker image first. You see the Docker image, it has, it's the Docker image. We have two images we built, Jasper Server Buildomatic and as well as Jasper Server Web App. As Himanshu told previously, size of the web application is around 2.2, 2.3 GB. Now we reduce to 1.24 GB by using the multi-stage build configuration in the Docker file. That reduces almost 50% of the size, and that because of that we can scale down the application very easily. And even Buildomatic has reduced to 1.52 GB. Previously it was more than 2 GB of the size. If you see the single instance Docker setup, there we have we'll get one Jasper web app, and also there is a ActiveMQ for the caching and the database for the Postgres database. We are using database as a Docker container here. And if you for the single instance, we have already logged in. You'll see this. It is accessible over the 8080 port here. Jasper directly accessible over the internet. And I can show some reports. Something. Let me log in first. So this is a single instance Jasper Server web application. You can see all the reports which are there in the samples reports in the Jasper Server web application. Now we can move to the cluster-based Jasper Server deployment. You'll see here two containers. One is Jasper Server Web App 1 and Jasper Server Web App 2. These are all not exposed to the internet. These are all internally behind the load balancer. They cannot be accessed directly. It should be accessible through the load balancer. For the load balancer, we are using HA proxy as a load balancer, HA proxy, and it is accessible over the port 80. And if you see here, you can directly access it from the port 80. This is cluster-based deployment for the Jasper server. We have only two containers, but if anyone wanted to add more containers, they can add the containers here. There's a duplicate of the code, but yeah, it's a thing we need to replicate same thing for the multiple containers. And for the ingress, for the load balancer configuration, there is also some little bit configuration changes should be there if you wanted to add one more extra container over here. We have only two containers running over here, just for Web App 1, Web App 2. So if you add any extra containers, you can add it one more container over here, so that load balancer can balance all containers. And let me talk about a little bit about the customizations. We have support two types of customizations: Buildomatic customization as well as Jasper Server customization. But all the Jasper Server customers directly, started copying to the Tomcat home directory, Catalina home. So, for example, if you wanted to apply the customizations on the js.config.properties, then you need to create a folder structure like web apps, Jasper Server Pro, WebINF, and you need to keep a file over there so that it will copy to the proper directory in the Tomcat home. And same applies to the Buildomatic customizations. Buildomatic customization should be directly base path would be the JRS home directory. And the key store license, for the key store and for the license, we are using the volumes in the Docker, and in the Kubernetes we will use the secrets so that it won't be visible to anybody. This is about the Docker, and we'll discuss about the Kubernetes as well. As Himanshu mentioned, like in the values.ml, we have a lot of configurations. You will see the everything in the documentation. We have documented everything in this parameter section for all the parameters what are there, and we'll support all types of Kubernetes configurations as well, like tolerations, affinity, everything. And I'll just have one example here. You see here the image is a one tag, image tag and name. You can add whatever image name you want using the complete the repository name and the image name. And if you have the complete private repository, you can create a secret, pull secret for the private repository, and you can add a secret over here so that it will pull it from there. And there are a lot of configurations, and just go through the document. Everything you can find in the documentation, and you will get the proper explanation over there. Just one example over here, environmental variables. We have only using very basic environmental variables over here as a Java option. If you want to do any JMX configurations and all, you can add it as a Java options over here. This is little bit very brief about the values.ml in the Kubernetes section. And also you'll see here there is a secret section. You need to, as a prerequisite, you need to create a key store and put it over here so that it will directly, create as a Kubernetes secret, and it would Jasper Server will take key store from these secrets. And same goes for the license as well. You need to keep the license over here so that Kubernetes will create a secret for it. So even Kubernetes as well, there are, as Himanshu mentioned, there are two types of configurations, with the database and without database. And both the options will take a lot of time. With the database, it will take around 20 minutes to configure everything. And without database, it will take at least minimum 2 to 3 minutes. I have pre-configured everything. You'll see all the pods running over here, and including all the logging and monitoring everything over here. This is the Jasper Server pod, and also there is a ingress one, there is a cache one. By default, ingress is disabled, but if you want the cluster mode deployment, you need to enable the ingress in the values by changing the values.ml. If you see the ingress here, we have disabled it by default. See, it is disabled by default. If you enable it to true, then you'll get a Kubernetes ingress controller over there. You'll see the ingress controller also here in the pods, and also in the services section. You see the Jasper Server ingress, and by default it is minimum. It need a load balancer or node port as a service type. It is required, and you'll get the external IP. You can access the application using this external IP. And as Himanshu mentioned, you have out of box solution. We are providing logging and monitoring as well. Logging, we are using EFK stack, Elasticsearch, and Fluentd as a daemon set. It will collect and create all the logs, and Kibana as a visualization for the logging. And monitoring, we are using Prometheus stack for the and Prometheus stack with Grafana for visualization, and Prometheus to collect all the metrics and send it to the Grafana visualization. I'll hand it over to the Himanshu so that he will show Jasper Server web application in the Kubernetes. And hand over to Himanshu.
All right, so this is the Jasper Reports Server application, which is running on EKS on Kubernetes. So if I can just quickly log into it. Right? So it's, as you can see the URL here, this is the load balancer URL on AWS and /Jasper Server Pro. So you will be at the home page of Jasper Reports Server. We can try to run a sample report if needed very quickly. I will just go here, reports, and you can try to run any report here. And you can see that the Jasper Reports Server Pro pod is handling the load here. So apart from that, Ranga, do you want to show the dashboard,
Yeah,
the Kibana dashboard?
yeah,
You can
Kibana
you can,
dashboard.
you
Yeah,
can talk about the Kibana dashboard here.
yeah, yeah. Kibana. This is a Kibana dashboard where you can monitor all the pods. Himanshu, maybe you can show that Kibana dashboard.
Right?
Yeah, this is metrics. We are using Grafana for visualization. You can see all the pods with the CPU utilization over there and overall memory utilization, and you can see everything over here, whatever you want. If you want customizable dashboard, you also that is also can be possible with the Grafana visualization.
Yeah. So we are just
Yeah,
providing this out of the box solution.
yeah, and it's not a
Okay. But if you wish to
mandatory. It's
use
a
any other,
completely
yeah.
yeah, yes, yeah,
And this is the Grafana dashboard where you can look for all the um, logs, right? So yeah. Do you want to cover anything else, Ranga?
yes. That's all from my side.
All right. So I think that covers everything. Badr?
Okay, that's really great. Thank you so much for this rich presentation. I can see I have some couple of questions. So just if our users change the values.xml file, let me just remove this. If sorry, if our user change the values.yml file, let's say by adding the new components, like their own databases, or change the application server, will they still be supported even they put changes in the values .yml file?
Uh, I did not get the question quite correctly,
Yeah.
Badr. So you
Sorry.
are asking
So
if you wish to change the configuration in the
yeah.
values.yaml file, right? You rerun the helm command,
Yes.
then it will pick it up from the values.yaml file. If you wish to change any database configuration, then you will have to modify default underscore master.properties file.
So this changes. They won't impact the support. They won't impact I mean, we're still supporting customers that use different values that YML file that change configuration, right? They still be supported.
Uh, we will have to use our values.yaml file, but if they wish
Okay.
to update the values.yaml file, yes, they can update it depending upon the requirement. Yes.
Okay, great. So just something about the Elasticsearch and Prometheus and Grafana monitoring. This is really cool. So are you saying, this is what I understood? So now, just using our default approach, just launching those commands using the default configuration in the values YML file, we automatically get Elasticsearch, we get and Kibana are up and running, and our Jasper server logs are streamed into Elasticsearch, so I can visualize them with
Dashboard, yeah.
Kibana, and I can launch Grafana and plug it to Prometheus, so I can monitor all the activity in Jasper server. All this with no work on the user side. Just launching the commands will install and take care of all of this, right?
That is correct. Yes. So you just need to update
That's really cool.
values.yaml file to make it enabled, and that's all about it.
Yeah, and the addresses and the ports, they're all mentioned in the values that YML file. Okay, and can you take a second look at it, please, where we can see the port numbers and the address for those for Prometheus?
Here?
Yeah, okay. So this is the this is for
There are
Elasticsearch.
few
We have
issues with
there.
the Prometheus. That's why we added some extra configuration over there. But don't worry about that extra configuration.
Okay.
We may be more interested about the metrics dot enable true or false.
All right, great. So let's see if I want to connect to Elasticsearch, where can I get the address of Elasticsearch? It's like the default. It uses the default port and localhost and default port all the time.
I mean, you want to get your own Elasticsearch?
Yeah, so because I understood it will install Elasticsearch, right? In the pod.
No, actually, Elasticsearch is a completely pre-configured in their own Helm chart, which is managed by Elasticsearch team. So we'll get the complete stack: Elasticsearch, Fluentd, and Kibana. So whenever we will install the Elasticsearch, it will install with the whatever the version we select. We'll get the Elasticsearch installed in that pod, and Kibana also with the same version what Elasticsearch will comes up. And Fluentd as a log aggregation, we need to install manually over there. That's the configuration we are providing as part of the Helm charts.
All right. Yeah.
To connect the Elasticsearch and Fluentd, there is a configuration. In the Fluentd, we need to mention what is the Elasticsearch host, port number, all those details to the Fluentd, so that it will push all the logs to the Elasticsearch.
Yeah, and this is done here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. I see we don't have any more questions. I would say thank you, guys. That was great. Just a reminder, can you go, Himanshu, to the resources page? So this is just for your reference, the GitHub page for our new JS Docker and Kubernetes implementation, and the wiki page for OpenShift as well. And keep in mind that we have in the community page, we put our slides, so you're gonna see those slides uploaded in that link. And the recording of this session is saved automatically in the YouTube channel, Dr. Jaspersoft Embedded BI. So yeah, anything else, Himanshu, Ranga, you want to add?
No, just one thing which I forgot to mention was about the OpenShift certification. So we haven't certified the OpenShift yet. However, if you want to try using the current implementation that we have, you could use this wiki page. We have provided all the information in order to deploy Jaspersoft on OpenShift platform. So please take a look into it. If you have any issues, you can get back to us and we can help you.
Great, thank you. Okay, so I don't see any questions yet come in. So that will be it. Thank you, Himanshu and Ranga, for this great presentation and demo, and thank you all you guys for joining. And see you Thursday 18th for a rate limiting session. Thank you. Ciao.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Himanshu. Thank you all. Thank you, brother.